I'm Dom Griffin. I'm a film critic, and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. It's an ongoing video series where I talk about and review films. If you're into film culture, please consider subscribing. Today, we're going to be reviewing a film called Antebellum. It was at one point a very highly anticipated black horror film in the vein of Get Out. The film was marketed exactly like Get Out, and it's the future directorial debut of a filmmaking pair named Bush and Renz, and it stars Janelle Monae. And at one point when the trailers first hit for this movie, the plot was kept under wraps. It was like a big top secret project. People thought this was going to be like a really big, strong movie, and it is not. It is an embarrassment. It is the worst thing I've seen all year, and I have to be honest with you, I've watched a lot of bad movies this year, more than most years. It's the worst, bar none. So some of you may be familiar with Bush and Renz because they started out doing like commercials and sort of cause-based short films. They did a short film produced by Harry Belafonte called Against the Wall, and then you may also know them from having directed Jay-Z's video for Kill Jay-Z off the 444 album. So these guys are like talented visual stylists, right? Like they obviously have talent when it comes to creating captivating visuals, especially in short form subjects, you know. So then moving to the feature film world, hey, that makes perfect sense. It's like a very, very guaranteed career path. But as talented as they are as visual stylists, as storytellers, as screenwriters, these two guys have a long way to go. I have to be really honest. This is not just a movie that I think didn't work. This is not just a movie that I think could have been better. This is not just a movie that I'm going to like dissect and tell you how I think could have been improved. This is a movie like I openly hated. Like I genuinely hated the fact that I watched this movie. So the only way I can really describe why I hated it and what bothered me about the movie so much is to do so with spoilers. So this movie has like a big twist, and I'm going to spoil the twist. I try to avoid spoilers in the channel when I can, but like there's no way to talk about this movie without spoiling it, so I'm going to spoil it. Antebellum opens up with this big, ostentatious, one-take shot moving through and around this plantation. So it's like a lot of gorgeously photographed, you know, beautifully framed, really typical slave shit from every movie you've ever seen about slavery, ever, okay? Like, this is imagery that you were very familiar with. The first third of the movie's runtime, it follows Janelle Monae's character, who is a slave. We get to watch her work in the fields, try to indoctrinate Union slaves and get them to, like, understand how the masters want them to work. All the typical shit you have seen in every other movie about slavery, okay? That is the first third or so of the movie. There's an off-kilter bent to the visuals of the movie that lets you know that there's something that's amiss, okay? Like, it's such a carbon copy of every other slave movie, but with just a little hint, a little glimmer of, you know, not normalness. And also the trailer shows footage set in present day, so you know something about this is incorrect. Whether it's going to be that it's going to be some kind of dream sequence, or whether there's time travel, like, you know there's going to be some kind of, like, paradigm shift within the narrative. Like, you know it's coming. So the entire first part of the movie is constructed around you knowing that something is amiss. Then we get to the twist of the movie, which is that Janelle Monae's character wakes up laying next to her new slave owner guy, and flashes back to what is the modern day, where she has like this real life where she's a famous black activist and speaker on social justice issues. And she goes to like a conference where she's like speaking about her work, and she has friends and a whole life and a daughter and a boyfriend and all this stuff. And of course, she ends up being kidnapped by this like white supremacist group that has this off-the-grid plantation where everyone cosplays slavery. Basically, the plot is that famous black people are being kidnapped and forced to work as slaves here today, off the grid in modern day America, while rich, white, racist, crazy people sort of act out and pretend to be Confederates or whatever. Like, that's what we've been seeing this whole time. That's like the big twist, okay? And then from there, it cuts back to present day, and Janelle Monae's character, we now know that she's not like a slave in the traditional sense, that this isn't a period piece, that she's been kidnapped and she needs to escape, and like that's the movie. That's like the whole broad sense of the movie. It's not a very long film, like that's the gist. Now, my issues with this are as follows, okay? Because of the construction of the narrative, and because of the fact that the entire first section set on the plantation has to be suitably believable, like you, the audience, have to be lulled into the sense that you are, in fact, watching just another slave movie, all of the characters, the modern day people, the black people who have been kidnapped and forced to be slaves, all talk like slaves in a movie set about the past. Like, even when they're by themselves, when no one's around, they communicate with each other in this weird form of dialogue that's like, not remotely believable. Like, if two modern-day black people were kidnapped and forced to be slaves, and they had a minute alone, they would talk a specific way. They would talk how they normally talk about how to get out of the situation. But in the movie, they talk the way slaves who have lived under a slave system for years talk, which is that they have this sort of ingrained sense of not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to piss anybody off, not wanting to have any kind of uprising. Because, you know, in movies about slavery was like an omnipresent thing throughout the entire nation. There was nowhere to run. There's a lot of difficulty inherent to forming an escape. In this particular situation, these characters know that this is like an isolated place. They know that there's a finite number of people who are keeping them captured. They know that if they get to any part of civilization, they have a good chance of actually getting away. Like, obviously, there's some thorniness there. I understand that, like, yeah, they're in the South probably, and they know that if they get to certain parts of the South, they'll still be, like, around potentially racist collaborators or whatever, but it does not read as normal or believable. It just feels fake. It is not that Bush and Renz are trying to make a statement about the nature of slavery and what it does to the psyche and why people communicate in a certain way. It's just that the characters have to talk that way to make their central conceit work. It's just bullshit. It's fake screenwriting bullshit. And also, because this movie is so enamored with and in love with its own central twist, they don't put any kind of effort into like anything else about the story. Like Janelle Monae's character, I don't even remember her name, that's why I keep calling her Janelle Monae's character, doesn't feel like a real person. Like when they get to the entire middle chunk of the movie, which is set in like the present day, like her flashbacks of what her regular life is like, everyone talks with this just atrocious dialogue. It's like not believable, not realistic, not like relatable. None of the characters feel like real people. They all just feel like think piece talking points, but like given spirit and person form. Like they don't feel believable in a way that makes you want to root for them or invest in them or engage with them or be intrigued by them. And the fact that they plop this giant chunk of present day flashback in the middle of the movie, the part of the movie that's supposed to be the most dramatically engaging, it just renders the entire movie like no. Like you get this whole pseudo-mysterious first third, and this whole middle section of like explaining how we got to the first third, and the final third is about her trying to escape. But by the time we get to the escape, it's very difficult to give a shit about her escaping. Like, do you know how badly written a movie has to be for a black person to watch it and not automatically de facto root for a person trying to escape slavery? Like, do you know how bad a movie like that has to be for me to go, when she's trying to get away because I just generally don't care? Like, that's a feat in of itself. The thing that's so frustrating to me about this movie is that these guys were so focused on creating a movie that had like a big twist that no one could see coming and tried to make it about something so hardcore. They were so obsessed with making this like a conversation starter in the discourse that they didn't make like a watchable movie. I don't even mean a good movie, like a watchable one. Like this is technically like a horror thriller that wants to kind of be like Get Out, but in no way functions like an actual horror thriller. There's no suspense, there's no real scares or anything. The structure is just all over the place. It's just bad. It doesn't work. Like they were so obsessed with like their ideas of like reclaiming Antebellum South imagery that they actually sought out getting the lenses that were used to shoot Gone with the Wind. Like that's something you can say in an interview to make it seem like you thought out the visuals of this movie very deeply, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't add to the film whatsoever. Nothing about the movie works the way it should or could or the way these guys seem to think it did, and it's really awful. There's one specific moment in the movie I want to talk about that to me highlights exactly what is wrong with the film at large. It comes right before the reveal of the twist, okay? So we've been watching this movie for like a good chunk of time, and we're in the plantation, and we're immersed in this world of slavery, and Janelle Monae's character flashes back to the reveal of how she got there, correct? When the flashback is over, what startles her back to like the present moment is the sound of a cell phone going off. The guy, the owner, person that she's stuck with, like his cell phone goes off. And it's such a jarring, unsettling moment to be surrounded by like these period piece environs and then to hear like such a modern noise. Like it's actually really like one of the cooler moments of the entire movie. But it doesn't do anything, because at this point we already know that this is present day. We already know that she's stuck in this situation because she was kidnapped. Like we get that. They've already explained that on screen. Imagine if like a not untalented person had made this movie and they actually built up the slave stuff in a much shorter runtime because it goes on for far too long. Imagine if it was just like 8 to 10 minutes of the slave stuff. And then she lies down to go to bed with like her slave master, and then you hear the cell phone go off. How much more jarring that would be, how much more intriguing it would be, how that would more naturally lead into the flashback and explaining what the current situation is. The fact that they wait so long to get to this bit with this twist and then use that tell is just, it's just dumb. Like it's like, this movie has like a not inconsiderable budget. It had like very strong marketing, all this different stuff, and like no one along the way at the beginning read the script and was just like, you guys just need to reorder like 5 scenes for this to work even halfway normally. It's embarrassingly bad. Like what could have been at least a watchable, interesting pastiche of like a Jordan Peele movie, instead is just like this bland, lifeless, black torture porn grafted onto like the skeleton of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. Like that's this whole movie. Unfortunately, it's also created and told with like a barest fraction of the storytelling acumen that M. Night Shyamalan possesses. It's a travesty. It's a waste of time. It is insulting that this came out in 2020. We do not need more movies that are slave narratives like this, or movies that just gesture in the direction of past historical pain to elicit a reaction with nothing to say, no commentary, no reclamation, just nothing. It's just trash. It's just garbage. And anyone that does this going forward like should just be put in director jail. Like, stop making movies that just point at slavery and go, fucked up, right? Pretty fucked up stuff, and then expect like applause. Like, you're saying nothing, you're changing nothing, you're contributing nothing to the artistic discourse in movies. It's a waste of time and money and talent and resources and everything else, and it sucks. This is the worst movie of the year. If I were you, I would avoid Antebellum at all costs. That's me. That's my take on Antebellum. I think the movie fucking sucks. I wish it never got made. I wish all the actors that are in it get better work in the future because they all deserve better. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any thoughts about the movie, please feel free to leave a comment. If you want to argue with me about it in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down is fine. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, please make sure you hit the little bell icon to get notifications when I put out new videos. Thank you guys for watching. Hope everybody stays safe. Wear your masks. Have a great day.